so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me today. Jen shared a little bit with us about what she shared week before last. And today's the 24th, so I probably don't have anything to add to this theme that y'all haven't heard this month already, but I am grateful to be here to share a few things with you. See if you can tell me who this is. There was a certain dude who dropped out of Reed College. Anybody have an idea? Probably a lot of people did that, didn't they? And later, even though he was a dropout, he sat in a calligraphy class because he was curious, because it interested him. And he was following his interests, his passions. Checked it out, participated. Years later, it gave him a profound understanding and knowledge of typefaces and proportional spacing. Somebody, I think, just whispered it. Was that you, Jen? Huh?
Jesus. I'm impressed with your hearing.
And when rock and roll hasn't taken it yet. In 2005, he gave a Stanford commencement speech. And his takeaway was, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. Who is it, Jim?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Oh,
Steve Jobs. You are looking at a recovering PC guy. Not politically correct, but I used to use nothing but PCs. I mean, for decades. I'm a writer. I spend, multiple hours on my computer every single day. And I cannot even, I was gonna say I can't remember what led me to the Mac, but I bet you it was curiosity. And I tried it out and fell in love. And it is about the design. It is about not just the function, but the form. And that had to do with someone who was curious, and even after dropping out of school, because perhaps it didn't quite fit him, he took a calligraphy, how do you say it? Calligraphy class, thank you. Today I'm talking about the sacred search, the curious mind, the open heart, the awakened soul. I'm going to pull out my phone and I'm going to pull up the definition for curiosity. This is something we could all do. It's right there on your device. But you don't have to. I'll do it for you. Curiosity is an eager, I really like that word. I like this next word too. Desire to learn, explore, or investigate. I like those are all good words, aren't they? Curiosity is an eager desire to learn, explore, and investigate. I love mystery, and I have since childhood. Since one of my grandmothers introduced me to Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie and the world of mystery, I have been captivated. And now for the last 30 years, I've been exploring mysteries. I've been doing that last word, investigating, inquiring, searching. I like detective fiction. I like to read it. I like to write it because I like having unknowns. And in this genre, the unknowns are what propel the story forward. It's a person saying, I can't abide not knowing. I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out who stole this, who killed this person, who done it. That's what I'm going to do. And I have been in love with mystery the vast majority of my life. As children, most children ask questions over and over and over again. Ask and ask and ask. trying to learn, trying to grow, trying to figure things out. They are curious. I have 3 absolutely incredibly smart, I would say brilliant granddaughters, and they question everything. And Jasmine and I will often observe them observing the way they are looking and taking things in and trying to figure out. And they just have the best questions. They'll say, Grandu, why is this? Why is that? Why? And over and over. And each time they do, it gives me the opportunity to reinvestigate that same subject. Now, I could feel like I know the answer, but that would be wrong. And we live in a world full of answers. That same device I mentioned, you can tell you anything. I promise you right now, we could find out how to do open heart surgery on YouTube and perform it on someone. Any volunteers? Supposedly all the answers are right there, but actually there are no answers. At least there are no complete answers. Everything I think I know is incomplete, is impartial, is unfinished. So if I stop asking questions like the children do, I'm lost. It's over for me. Curiosity should not be something that just children have. As we age, as we grow, as we evolve, we ask less and less questions. Why is that? There's only one reason. It's that we think we already know. When's the last time you asked a question about something you think you know? Internally or externally to someone else? If you think you know, do you ask questions about it? I think asking, seeking, searching, curiosity is not childish, but that very key word Jesus used, childlike. It is that which gets us to have a deeper experience in life. Every breakthrough in life, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, begins with a question. What are the questions on your heart and mind today? How well are you asking them? Why do we stop seeking? Why do we stop asking? I want you to think about this. Really think about this. Millions saw apples fall. Only Newton asked why. Don't stop asking why, no matter what's going on. The 3 dimensions of curiosity have to do with the mind, being curious. A curious mind has to do with thinking. The open heart, which has to do with feeling. And the awakened soul, which has to do with being. I'm not going to have you raise your hand, but I wonder how many of you in here have been fortunate enough to work with Bob. Coach just sitting there in the back. I had that privilege. Randy works with him from time to time. Made a few masterpieces that are here with us today. In sessions with Bob, in fact, I don't think I ever had a single session with Bob where he didn't say, let's get curious. No matter what the subject, no matter what the topic, no matter what you're going through or dealing with, let's get curious. You will change your life this moment if you replace judgment with curiosity. You could do that one thing. One thing. I try to do that, and I often fail. I often judge circumstances, situations, people with knowing very little. And I project my own biases, my own beliefs, and whatever self-righteous bullshit onto them, rather than saying, why is that person responding that way? Why are they acting that way? Is it fear? Is it trauma? Is it they're on the spectrum? They have stuff going on that's like, I have no idea? And when did I become the standard that I should judge how they do something? At a certain point in life, as a spiritual seeker from a young age, let's say around 13 or 14, I had an awakening and a spiritual experience and set me on this journey of seeking. And at a certain point, and I think it was probably in my early 20s, so let's say, 7, 8, 9 years later, I was confronted that there are no answers and that the questions are what matter. I was confronted with the limitations of our knowledge, of what we think we know. And I was introduced to the spiritual practice of not knowing. It is a spiritual practice. It is an activity that we participate in where we say, I'm going to shift from being a passive observer to an active explorer. Not just passively observing, but actively exploring, seeking, searching. Not knowing. Answers close. They shut us down. Questions expand. They open us up. I challenge you, I encourage you and me to ask, to delve deeper about every single thing we know. Why are we living in a world so afraid of not knowing? Of not having the answer? Of being caught without being asked a question or confronted in a situation where we don't have the answer, where we don't know. That's fear. That's insecurity. That's a sign that there's work to be done. Because if I'm secure, if I'm feeling safe, I'm happy to explore questions not only about the world, but about myself. Why did I do that thing? Why did I think that thought? Why? What was I doing? What was I thinking? What motivated that? What happened in the past that formed this belief that caused me to do this thing? In the Hebrew Bible, King David, in many of his emotional and raw expressions of humanity and of not knowing and of searching, one of the things he says is, I know my shortcomings. I know them. I'm well aware of them. That's the way I want to be. And that only happens when we delve deep, when I'm willing to look at what's there. What's behind the mask, what's behind all the social conventions and everything we try to do. What is there? And I need to be brave and bold to take a look at it. And the way we do that, to begin to do that, is with beginner's mind. Anybody in here know what beginner's mind is? Anybody in here practice it? That Zen philosophy of not knowing. Of approaching everything like a beginner. The freedom, the joy, the wonder that comes with beginner's mind is phenomenal. I stand before you today as someone who has written over 50 novels. And every single time I start a new one, I start with, I don't know how to write a novel. I don't know how to do this. And that's why I love it. I am what they call a discovery writer. Someone who, I've just started a new novel within the last week or so. It required a ton of research because it's set in 1945 in Los Angeles. I wasn't born. I didn't live there in 1945, so a lot of research. I'm just living in that world. And guess what? I don't know how to write this novel. I am stumbling around, trying to figure it out, and that is joy. That is so much fun. And I always figure that if I'm inspired, if I am eager to wake up in the morning to get to the keyboard to see what happens next, that the reader might have that same experience. That's what I want. And so I begin with beginner's mind. When I first started writing, summer of 1994, I for a year or two before that had tried to write, started different things. I'd fallen in love with reading and literature, especially, mystery, detective fiction, and I wanted to do it. I'm a reader moved to emulation. I wanted to recreate that. And as I began that summer, that's when I started writing every day, and something clicked, and I began reaching out to writers. Now I live in this little micro town where, to my knowledge, no writers lived. So there was nobody I could, talk to in my vicinity. So then I began to, and this is pre-internet. I couldn't just look up things. So I began to reach out and ask people, and someone said, there's a lady who was raised in Port St. Joe, and she's had a few novels published, and you should reach out to her. And I, friend of a friend, got her phone number. I called her. She lives in New York, and I called her and began to ask her questions. And, I hope she's not watching this, but she was not helpful at all. At all. And it was the best thing she could have done. That's the best thing she could have been. And what she taught me in that brief conversation where she was not helpful, did I mention she was not helpful at all? What she taught me was that, hey, bud, you got to figure it out yourself. It's on you. And weekend after next, I'll be speaking at a writers' conference in St. Simon's Island. And that's what I'm going to tell them. I'm giving the keynote address, and all these people who paid all this money to come to this weekend conference, I'm going to tell them, you got to figure it out yourself. You feel like you got your money's worth? You got to figure it out yourself. You have to ask the questions. And that's what I did. I began asking questions. I found a professor at the college, Lynn Wallace, who became a dear friend. He started doing a writing group for novelists. I started attending that, and I just soaked up everything I could. And I hope, I'm not certain, but I believe, and especially I hope, that standing here before you today, 30 years later, over 30 years later, that I'm just as curious, that I'm just as hungry and thirsty, that I'm just as seeking as much, and I'm just as ignorant and not knowing, so that I have to seek, so that I have to search, so that I have to try to figure out how to write a damn book every single time. I think Jen mentioned Socrates, the method of asking, exploring, and the main thing that does, in addition to putting us in beginner's mind, is it dismantles illusions, the illusions of knowledge, of knowing something. We don't know. We need to ask. Carl Sagan said, somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. All we have to do is ask. The open heart requires emotional curiosity. We need, more than ever, emotional literacy, where we are willing to ask these questions, where we are willing to explore, where when we go into a profound conversation or into therapy, we look at what is beneath. What is the truth? Am I committed to the truth, or am I committed to the illusion? And maybe under this anger is fear. And maybe under this fear is grief. And maybe there's trauma, and maybe there's, but we don't know until we explore. We don't know until Bob invites us to get curious. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What does that mean? Do we just hear something like that and leave it at that? Or do we say, what does that really mean? How does that apply to me? How, when, where? Ask, seek, teach me. I want to be open. I want to be in a place where every single thing that happens in life, I will say to it, I don't care what it is, I say, this is my teacher. What is my lesson? I want to tell you, my guess is you can relate to this, but I may be the only one. But in this University of Life, U of L, I've had a lot of remedial classes because I didn't learn it the first time. And so I get a chance to do it again and again and again. And every single time there's an opportunity to learn more, to grow more, to be braver, to go deeper, to see what's really going on. You can stay in Eden. You can stay unconscious. You can close your eyes to what's going on in the world, what's going on around you. You can silence the voices inside you, the parts that are speaking up, that need to be heard, they're saying, hey, there's attention is needed here. Or you can say, I'm going to get as much out of this life as I can, and that's going to require me to be open, to be active, not passive, an active seeker, to know that I don't know, to explore the mystery, to say there are not just vague unknowns, there are specific unknowables. I really like and think very highly of a certain marginal rabbi, radical teacher that lived a few thousand years ago. Have just incredible respect and try to follow him and do what he did and become more of what he was. And there's 4 what they call gospels written about him. Unfortunately, this is a little bit aside, but unfortunately, the message that he proclaimed sadly became a religion, and that religion turned it into being about him instead of what he was teaching. But this guru, this teacher, this central figure in world history, in the history of the great world wisdom traditions, gave very, very, very few answers. What he gave instead was questions. And these are short little, these gospels, these accounts, first of all, they're very repetitive. They say a lot of the same things. They're dealing with a lot of the same stories. So it's very little material. And in that material, he asks over 300 questions and gives very few answers. So when someone wanting to justify themselves says, who is my neighbor? I'll tell you who your neighbor is. Nope, that's not what he did. He said, let me tell you a story. I asked him a question first. He said, what does the law say? What does the teaching say? What is your interpretation? What do you think your neighbor is? And then he tells a story. And then he asks more questions. And we live in a culture, in a world, in religions that want to give you the answers and tell you what to think. Political, religious, moral, ethical, cultural, familial. This is the truth. This is what you should do. This is how you should think. This is who you should be. Not once did he do that. And if you want to argue that the Gospel of John does that, I will argue with you that that was something done to him, not something he did. That's a whole other story. But certainty creates religion. Curiosity creates spirituality. I don't want to be religious in the traditional sense. I want to be a seeker. And I want to be committed to the truth, to seeking, to questioning, not to dogma or doctrine. What if in political systems, people were committed to the truth instead of a person, a personality, a leader? What if our allegiance was to seeking the truth, to finding what is real and honoring that as opposed to just following someone blindly? Life shrinks or expands in proportion to our questions. The three barriers to this approach in life, one is certainty. It's one of the worst things we can ever have is certainty. I don't know. I can't be certain. Number two is fear. Oh, wait now, you're telling me to ask all these questions. What if I don't like the answers? What if you're asking me to delve deep? What if I don't like what's in there? No, I'm not. I'm gonna avoid that. The last one is comfort. This works well enough. I'm getting by, right? Everything's okay. I'm making it. Why stir stuff up? Let's just live and let live. Curiosity. Kill the cat. That is a warning from fearful people to tell you, don't be curious, don't seek, don't step out. And I love that you shared the second part of that was lost a long time ago. You never hear that part, do you? People always just say, curiosity killed the cat. And what they're telling you is, don't risk it. The greatest risk you can have is not being curious. It's not being curious.
Curiosity caught the mouse.
Exactly. Curiosity, questioning, seeking is everything. Questions are all. There are no wrong questions, and there should be no end to our questions, but there are plenty of wrong answers. Are you willing to not know? Guess what? You don't have to be willing. You already not know. You don't know. You don't know shit. You know so little. Now, I can be honest with you and tell you I know less than you, but you don't know anything. The question is, are you going to be real and honest about it? Are you going to say, yes, I embrace not knowing, and yes, I am going to seek, and I'm going to search, and I'm going to try to get as much out of this life as I can because I'm open, because I'll practice beginner's mind, that not knowing, that baby mind, that Michael's little granddaughter's mind of asking over and over and over again. That Newtonian approach to life that says, why did that apple fall from what caused that? How many things in life do we observe every single day and we don't ask those kind of questions? I want to live the mystery. I don't want to pretend that I know it or can solve it. I want to embrace it. I don't want to enter into religion or politics or family. Spiritual things. I don't want to go in there to try to solve the mystery or to get answers. I want to go in deeper and deeper to get better and better questions. And your life can improve this day if you improve the quality of your questions. That's all you have to do. Improve the quality of your questions. And follow your interest. If you want to take a calligraphy class, take it. And maybe at the moment it makes no sense. But later, when you're able to connect the dots, you'll see that it really does. That there was a hand guiding you. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's a hand from outside. It could be your deepest part of who you are. Now I want to ask you to break up into a couple little groups. Let's just do it by who you're sitting next to, okay? I'm assuming you get along with them because you're sitting. If you're not sitting with somebody, if you'll join, at least connect with somebody behind you or around you. And this very short, brief exercise I want us to do, and it won't take but a moment. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes. Let's say 2 minutes. So you're going to have to really hit the ground running. Work with each other to come up with as many possible questions as you can about the topic I'm going to give you. Now, if one of you has a piece of paper, you can jot them down, or you can write them on your phone, or you can just remember them. But together, in your group, come up with as many questions. Answers are not allowed. As many questions as you can on the topics I'm going to give you, okay? Why don't this whole section be a group, okay? All right, your topic is the soul. As many questions, yeah, you're welcome. How about, you want this whole section to be a? All right, yours is faith and freedom, okay? As many questions as you can on that topic. Bob, Jen, y'all are a group, and you can recruit others if you want to, but yours is gender, okay? You're welcome. All right, this section right here, let's yours be truth, okay? Your topic is truth. Come up with as many questions as you can on your topic. You have 2 minutes starting now.
Wait, we're a whole section, right? Hello. All right. Questions. Ask a question. That's a statement.
How can truth be discerned? I was saying, whoever really knows it.
Okay. Truth. That's good.
How
do you spell truth? T-R-O.
I have one question. If we know truth one day, the next day, is it going to be the same day?
I said,
Will the truth change? Truth change.
it's the fates.
What is truth?
Can you know the truth?
Let's start in the very back with Bob and Jen. Give me some questions. Give me a couple. Did you come up with any? Your topic was gender, right?
Is gender fixed? Who decide or define gender? Is it a social construct? Has it evolved? Is there further evolution?
Fantastic. Great questions. They set the bar pretty high for the rest of y'all. You knew they would, but don't feel pressure. It's okay. Your topic was fate and freedom? Okay, what you got?
Who's controlling our fate?
Nice.
What does fate have to do with freedom?
Nice.
And is freedom dependent on other people?
Awesome. Great questions. Okay. What did y'all have?
Truth.
All right, what you got?
Let's see. How can truth be discerned? Can you ever really know the truth? Will the truth change? And what does truth really mean?
Nice. Very good. Very good. Okay. Did we save the best for last? Y'all have the best questions?
I can tell you we had a very curious group.
Nice.
I did not have any questions written down.
What was your topic?
Soul.
The soul. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Does the soul exist? What is a soul? Does the soul live forever? Where does the soul reside? Is a soul separate from a brain? Does the soul guide us? Is the soul conscious? Is the soul consciousness? And do animals have soul?
Awesome. Awesome. So good. Yeah. If you want a better life, ask better questions. What we just did, think about, but that was honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I gave you less than 2 minutes. And think about all you came up with. Think about how quickly and easily you just, and this that I'm talking about today is a practice like everything else. So the more you do it, the better you get at it. I'm going to close with a few daily practices that I want you to try to incorporate if you're interested in this. The first one is intellectual. Ask better questions. Every single day, try to ask better questions. Take a few moments if you can, to look at, to entertain, to read outside of your worldview. Question everything, including your questions, including yourself, your assumptions, your biases, your paradigm. Quit letting it define everything. Emotional practices. Pause before reacting. What is this I'm feeling? Why am I having this reaction? What's going on? Inquire about it. I think Jen shared with you the Byron Katie questions. That's perfect to use. Spiritual. Sit in silence. Be comfortable with ambiguity. Be willing to not know. Live with the paradox of truth, which is there's more than one side to it. A traveler stands at a crossroads. One path is clear, safe, predictable. The other is uncertain, winding, alive. The difference is in one question. What if there is more? What if there is more? Einstein said the most important thing he said there was nothing special about him, which I disagree with. But he said all he did was ask questions. That's what made him who he was. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as far as the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted that I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The road less traveled is the questioning, is the searching, is the seeking, is the beginner's mind that says, I know nothing, I must inquire, I must explore. Stay curious when it's uncomfortable. Stay open even when it hurts. Stay searching even when others settle. The mind asks, the heart listens, the soul awakens. The search is sacred. Thank you.